Happy Monday, February the 3rd. The title for today in the quarterly, God is entirely good and righteous. The scripture for today is in James 1:13, way at the end. But before I read it, I have to tell you why I'm grateful to the Lord. The happiness. Today I remember, and that memory, even though it makes me sad to think about the life, in a sense it makes me happy because it brings me back to the essence of ministry. Today would have been the happy birthday of one of my favorite pastors, Archie Tupas. A man that I remember with an extreme heart, very generous. I don't know him having enemies. A warm heart. And, above all, a visitation machine. Every Monday, man, every Monday. Pastor Benjamin, where are we going? My answer would be systematic theology. And every time I said systematic theology, he knew I was talking, we're going to start with West Covina, going to Temple City, and then Arcadia, and then Alhambra, and then East LA. Systematically, not back and forth in LA. Systematic visitation. And today would have been his birthday. I know the dead know nothing. I'm not praying to heaven. He's not in heaven. He's not in hell. He's not in purgatory. He's not in limbo. He's in the grave, resting, waiting for the sound of the trumpet. Anita Tupas, the wife, if you're watching me, I send you a hug, sending hugs. Arnie, the same thing, sending hugs. I miss your dad. Now let's go to the Bible. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. James begins this letter by commanding Christians to see trials in our lives as meaningful and ultimately beneficial things. Struggles during our earthly lives are opportunities to trust God at a deeper level. But they can also be traps. Excuses used to justify a decision to stop trusting Him and turn away. When you get a blessing, you're happy, but it could be a trap. When you get a curse, you're sad, but it could be beneficial. As a pastor, I have learned more from the trials than from the blessings. Because when you receive blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing, you tend to depend on yourself. We don't need to pray anymore. We're receiving God's blessing. We must be doing something right. The temptation attached to trials is to trust God less. We might decide He is not strong enough to provide for us. We might decide that He's not faithful enough to meet our needs. He's not compassionate about our pain and heartbreak. And then we begin to question, is God good? Is God any good? Is He loving? Is He powerful? James here is talking about how we choose to answer those questions about God in our worst ways. If we decide to tell ourselves God is not faithful, we may declare our independence from Him by choosing not to obey and start looking at ourselves. If we decide He is trustworthy, we will move closer to Him looking for more help, and we will restore connectivity with the vine. Here in this scripture, James makes clear that blaming God for tempting us to reject Him by allowing trials in our lives is not a valid response. God never orchestrates the events of our lives with an intent to lure us away from Himself. He always roots for us to move closer. He's rooting for you. Get closer. That's who He is. And the purpose of trials, unfortunately, is to draw us closer to Him. Fortunately, not to drive us away from God. The purpose of a trial. I always say, God doesn't waste any hurt. He will use it to bring you closer to Him. Christians are never guaranteed an easier life than non-believers. Quite the opposite. Being a friend to God means being an enemy to the fallen world. So, trials will test our faith, but the temptation to be unfaithful to God during hardship is not from Him. He is, by definition, good. He can't be tempted by evil. He tempts no person with evil. So where does the temptation come from? Where does temptation come from? I'll finish with a story. The man with a funny hat cursed the people of Israel. Don't do that. That is a huge mistake. I seize the opportunity to condemn one more time, to curse once and from all. Look what he says. From the bottom of my soul, from the bottom of my viscerous, I condemn and he said, one of the countries of the Middle East, the state. I'm very careful not to repeat it. And then he used a cursed word. A cursed word that means cursed. You. And he said the name of the country. It used to be the nation of God. Not anymore. The nation of God is whoever believes in Him will not perish but have everlasting life. The true sons of Abraham are those who believe in the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Yes, that's the new nation of God, the church. However, don't miss, even if it's the ancient nation of God, because in Romans chapter 13, Israel will be saved again. Revelation, 144,000. So be careful. A few days later, he thinks he's constipated. A few days later, he thinks he has pain. He's rushed to Caracas, cancer. He's rushed to La Habana, cancer. He's brought back to Caracas, dead. God cannot be mocked. Whatever you sow, you will reap. Because there's a God in heaven who kisses justice and mercy. May God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.